I'm joined now by Allen Overy's Deepa Nathan. Deepa, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Pleasure. We've just been talking about this whole FSA issue. The FSA obviously has a lot of power to come up with whatever it likes, but really if they do decide to do something different from the rest of Europe, that would create problems, wouldn't it? It
would create problems, and I think the idea, Andrea, ideally would be that we end up on a level playing field. It's really not in our interest at all if we have got different rules to the rest of Europe, and hopefully that is going to be resolved and we will end up on the 1st of January with a level playing field across the EU. Otherwise we'll obviously have issues of, well, should people be moving across, and that just doesn't make any sense. Query whether people will then decide, as we heard earlier, about whether businesses should sort of up sticks and sort of relocate elsewhere. Personally, I think that's probably unlikely to happen. It hasn't happened so far, even with increased tax
It's been
rules.
talked about an awful lot, and yet the number, you know, we hear about the kind of high-profile people who've left, but the vast majority of people haven't made that decision to go to Geneva or Zurich, right?
So hopefully we keep a level playing field, people stay here, people realise that it's good to invest in this sort of area, and we don't see an exodus that, I think it's a bit of scaremongering that's been happening on that front.
Now, we've heard the regulations that we think are going to be put in place. Of course, there is always a way, isn't there, for banks to find a way round this bonus issue, perhaps by raising the basic salary? Yes,
it's not going to be so easy. I mean, the FSA is all over this. They're employing more people, they're very on the ball, they want to make sure that these rules really do have teeth. If there are provisions in contracts which they don't like, they're going to have the power to render those provisions void. Now, those are new powers, they haven't been in place before. So I don't think it's something that any businesses can take lightly. And bear in mind, Andrea, we're covering a much larger area than was previously covered. We had about 27 businesses covered by the previous FSA regime, or the current one. The one that's going to be coming into force in January is going to operate over approximately 2,500 businesses.
So a huge number of businesses, and a lot of them are relatively small, although possibly very profitable hedge funds, things like that. Will the FSA really be monitoring all of those to make sure that they're not paying bonuses?
That is the idea. I mean, a focus will obviously be on the larger institutions. To be honest, they're probably more used to the regulatory framework. They were always covered by the code. They've been aware of what these issues are. It's going to be interesting to see how people like hedge fund managers are coping with the new rules. They haven't been in this regime before, and suddenly they're thinking, well, hold on, why am I covered by this? What is going on here? It's a completely new world.
And they're certainly not used to it. Are we beginning to see a cultural shift here?
I absolutely think we are. I think there has been quite a lot of banker bashing going on, obviously, in the press. It's a very popular vote winner with all the parties across the board, so everyone needs to be seen to be doing something about it. I think that's a lot of why a lot of the legislation is coming about. But the FSA absolutely does have the powers to make sure that these new rules do have teeth.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for joining us today and discussing that with us. Thanks.
Pleasure.